Let's start by understanding the actual moment we're in. For years, literally years, the crypto community has been fighting the same battle, proving that blockchain technology should be allowed to exist in the United States financial system. The debate was fundamental. Regulatory agencies were treating crypto as inherently problematic. Politicians viewed it with suspicion. Banks refused integration. That phase is ending. The shift is subtle, but it's real. The question isn't anymore, should blockchain technology be part of the United States financial system? The question is now, how do we integrate blockchain into existing United States financial infrastructure? That's a completely different conversation. It means the criteria for evaluating which projects matter has fundamentally changed. 3 years ago, the most important thing a blockchain could do was prove it was technically sound and compliant with vague regulatory guidance. Today, the most important thing a blockchain can do is prove it can integrate into existing government infrastructure. Most projects in crypto are still playing by the old rules. They're fighting regulatory battles. They're trying to position themselves as anti-government or anti-traditional finance. That might have worked in 2018. It doesn't work now. Now, the projects that position themselves for government integration, not against it, are the ones that will actually capture institutional value. Here's what makes Hedera different. The project seems to have understood this shift before it actually happened. Instead of building flashy narratives or chasing retail hype, Hedera has been quietly building infrastructure that governments and institutions actually need. This is the opposite of how most blockchain projects operate. Most projects launch, hype the token, try to attract retail speculators, then eventually have to retrofit compliance and institutional positioning. Hedera did it backwards. It built the infrastructure first. It worked with government entities before policy clarified. It created frameworks that are designed to work within the existing system, not against it. That might not sound exciting on Twitter, but in terms of positioning, it's radically more valuable. Because when policy shifts, which is exactly what's happening now, Hedera doesn't have to scramble to adapt. It's already positioned perfectly. Let's talk about something real that's happening right now. The Federal Reserve just launched FedNow. This is massive. This is the Fed's answer to instant payments, 24/7, real-time settlement, no more waiting days for money to clear. It uses the ISO 2022 standard, which has been identified as the future of financial messaging globally. Drop, a micropayments platform built on Hedera, is integrated into FedNow. Let me be absolutely clear about what that means. Hedera-based transactions are now flowing through the Federal Reserve's payment system. This isn't theoretical. This isn't a press release. This is operational infrastructure. When the crypto community talks about adoption, they usually mean retail users buying tokens on Coinbase. This is what real adoption looks like. This is a blockchain-based application providing real utility within the most important financial infrastructure in the world. And here's what's critical. Drop isn't the only example. This is a pattern. Hedera isn't just working with the Fed once and hoping it matters. Multiple projects are integrating Hedera infrastructure into actual government systems. Payments get the attention. But there's another critical area where Hedera is already embedded in government infrastructure: data integrity. Taekion is a secure storage and verification platform. Its job is simple, but absolutely mission-critical, ensuring that sensitive government data can be stored and verified without being tampered with. Here's the part that matters. Taekion has been funded by both the United States Department of Defense and the Department of Energy. These aren't experimental programs. These are actual government agencies deploying real infrastructure because Hedera solves problems they actually have. The White House recently published a digital asset report. In that report, they mentioned only 4 distributed ledger networks by name. 4 out of thousands of blockchain projects. Hedera was one of them. Now, I want to be clear. This doesn't mean the White House is endorsing Hedera. It doesn't mean the government is saying buy Hbar. It means something more important. Hedera has been reviewed. Legally, technically, policy-wise, and it's been deemed relevant enough to mention alongside other foundational blockchain infrastructure. Most public blockchains can't claim that. They haven't been reviewed at that level. They're not on government radars in that way. Hedera is. That puts it in a completely different category. When new policy frameworks get formalized, which they will over the next 2 to 3 years, projects that are already named in official government reports have a massive structural advantage. They're not starting from zero. They're starting from a position of established technical and policy credibility. Here's the fundamental difference. Hedera was designed for this phase. It wasn't built as a general-purpose blockchain that's now trying to adapt to government requirements. It was built specifically to work within government requirements from day one. That's visible in every decision the project made. It's based in the United States. It works with government institutions globally. Its architecture prioritizes security and auditability. Its governance model is designed to be transparent and institutional grade. Most other major blockchains are trying to retrofit these things. They're trying to adapt existing architectures to meet government needs. Hedera doesn't have to do that. It's already built that way. When crypto policy finally crystallizes into formal frameworks, which is happening right now, that positioning advantage will compound enormously. Projects that are already integrated into government systems will be the defaults. Projects that are trying to adapt will be the alternatives. Alright, if this breakdown of Hedera's government positioning just changed how you think about which blockchain projects actually matter long-term, you need to understand the deeper mechanics of infrastructure first versus speculation first positioning. Most creators talk about price targets and token supply, but there's an entire intermediate layer where structural value is actually created. If this analysis of policy shifts and institutional integration helped you see why positioning matters more than hype smash, that like button right now, it tells YouTube this deep positioning analysis matters, and it helps us push this kind of institutional framework analysis to more people who actually want to understand which projects will dominate the next cycle. And if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. When major policy frameworks get announced, we analyze what they mean for project positioning. We decode structural advantage in ways most channels won't touch. Let's keep going. So, the obvious question is this. If Hedera is positioned so well for government integration, shouldn't Hbar price be going insane right now? The answer here actually reveals something pretty important about how markets work. Price doesn't move on institutional positioning alone. Price instead moves on narrative adoption. Hedera's narrative isn't meme coin. It's not 10 times pump coming. It's more like quiet infrastructure integration with government agencies. And honestly, that narrative just doesn't move retail speculators, so the price stays relatively stable, while behind the scenes, fundamental positioning actually gets stronger. That's actually the setup for some massive long-term value creation. When the market finally realizes what Hedera has actually been building, when government integration becomes mainstream awareness instead of just insider knowledge, that's when price really reflects positioning. And, it happens quickly. Hedera's approach is almost, deliberately unsexy. No celebrity endorsements, no viral narratives, no get-rich-quick messaging, just quiet, methodical infrastructure building with actual government integration. That positioning is really worth understanding because it reveals something about how actual adoption happens versus how the crypto community usually thinks adoption happens. It's kind of interesting. The projects that shout the loudest about their use cases rarely actually have them. The ones that quietly build real use cases with real institutions, they don't need to shout. The infrastructure just, speaks for itself. Hedera is a perfect example of that dynamic, and as policy crystallizes, that dynamic will, really define which projects survive the next cycle. Right, so here's what I want you to walk away with. The crypto community is obsessing over price cycles and regulatory battles while a fundamental shift in US policy is happening beneath the surface. The shift from should blockchain exist to how do we integrate blockchain into infrastructure. That shift is already selecting winners. Hedera has positioned itself as an infrastructure play for government integration. Other projects are still playing speculation games. That positioning gap will compound over the next 2 to 3 years as policy frameworks crystallize. The projects that are already integrated into government systems will become the defaults. The projects still fighting for legitimacy will become the alternatives. Whether Hbar's price appreciates from here depends on market sentiment. But structurally, Hedera's positioning is something almost every other major blockchain would envy. And honestly, most of them don't even realize it yet. Thanks for watching TJ Crypto World. If this breakdown of Hedera's government positioning and policy shift dynamics helped you understand which blockchain projects are actually positioned for the next era, please drop a comment below. Do you think government integration matters more than market hype for long-term value? And before you leave, check out our latest video on how central bank digital currencies will reshape which blockchains actually matter. I break down the specific infrastructure requirements that most projects can't meet. The link is pinned in the comments. Stay structural, stay informed, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.